Good evening, Your Excellencies. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to have you here with us. My name is Rama Shaqaqi, and I'm the president of Qatar Science and Technology Park. Today, it's my pleasure to be moderating the 35th edition of Qatar Foundation's Education City Speaker Series. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to a conversation that's going to be both enlightening, thought-provoking, and deeply inspiring. Our guest today is a visionary, a thinker in deep tech. As the former chief business officer of Google X, the moonshot factory, as they like to call it in Silicon Valley, he's also been the leader on the forefront of deep human insights. Beyond Mo's tech career, he is a best-selling author and also the founder of the 1 Billion Happy Movement, a movement that was inspired by personal loss and driven by a desire to make happiness a global agenda. He's the author of Solve for Happy, Scary Smart, The Little Voice in Your Head, and the host of the podcast Slow Mo, a podcast that brings together visionaries from around the world that discuss big questions and find answers to them. As well as sharing his story with us, he'll be answering your questions towards the end of our discussion. So please join me in giving Mo Gawdat a warm welcome.
Thank you.
Mo, we're truly happy to have you with us today here at Qatar Foundation Education City. We've heard you speak earlier at the WISE Summit about your latest book, incredibly inspiring. What I wanted to begin with is the incredible career transition that you've had. Google X is on the bleeding edge of technology, a company that's worth over $3 trillion and is basically what you were inventing, the rest of us were seeing 10 years later. How does one go from being at the height of that career to becoming an author and a very unknown in that domain?
Well, I think more importantly, how does one feel afterwards? Best move ever. Best move in my life, honestly. I was nudged by life, as those who know the story. I was nudged by life to write Solve for Happy, my first book, when I lost Habibi, my son Ali. Ali had a very pivotal role in my life. He was I'd probably say, here for a mission. And his mission was to make us love him so deeply that his loss would motivate us to teach what he taught us. And Ali taught me quite a bit about a topic that most executives struggle with, which is the idea of how to find success and purpose in life beyond just, beyond just success, if you want. The idea of understanding that life is supposed to be a life of contentment, rida, as we say in Arabic, and a life of happiness in an interesting way, that there are priorities that are different than what capitalism taught us. And in a very unusual way, as I say, life will nudge you when you're supposed to be in a different place and you keep resisting. And so his departure was the nudge that made me write a book that I was hoping to write around 4 years before, which was Solve for Happy. And Solve for Happy was, believe it or not, I'm not an author. I still don't consider myself an author, to be honest. But it was a very, it felt like a mission to document what I studied with him in a book that hopefully would be read by enough people for his essence to remain in our world. But then what happened was probably completely unexpected. Solve for Happy became incredibly successful. I have no idea why, to be honest, but we're now reaching almost 1 million copies sold. But because of the way life has set me up to not really need to be an author, if you want, I ended up deciding to teach everything that was in Solve for Happy, abundantly, if you want, on podcasts and in courses in Stanford and in other universities that were put on YouTube, and somehow the movement became much bigger than the book, which, you know, if you see it with that clarity, you suddenly realize that another $1 billion deal in Google X, or another, you know, bit of technology that so many others are capable of inventing, is probably not as impactful as reaching the hearts of people to make a change that makes their lives better. In a moment of, I don't know how to say that without doubting the world we live in a moment of hesitation between the impact of technology and the impact of wellness, if you want, it was very clear to me back in 2017 that tech has started to miss the promise, that tech was doing so well for the world in the early stages where life was very difficult, but that now, unfortunately, because of the capitalist approach to technology, technology only brings as a bit of advancement before it becomes a capitalist method that brings sometimes more harm than good. And so my work was all about that, was all about perhaps life deserves to be better for all of us.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to get to your work in tech, but before that, the day your beloved Ali departed, I came to your house to visit your family, and I read on the wall a statement that said, "The gravity of the battle means nothing to those in peace." What does that mean to you, and how come it was featured in your latest book?
So Ali was a very unusual ambassador of East and West. He was extremely proud to be from here. We took him, I actually never spoke about this in public. We took him to Umrah when he was 15, I think. And Ali was tall, very handsome. And he, at some point in time, came to me when he was 12 or something, 13. And he said, "Papa, I want to have dreadlocks." And for some reason, I felt that dreadlocks were his symbolism of I want to be free. I do not want to be judged by the world to be something or another. And I remember vividly, we were driving to this place that we found that could help him start the process. And he said, no, I changed my mind. And I said, "Habibi, no, I think this would really be very helpful for you." Anyway, when he went to Umrah, as you can imagine, some of us sometimes love to give advice. So throughout Ali's Umrah, everyone would walk to him and say, "This is the hair of the devil." Like, the young man is there wearing malabis al-ihram and, you know, really, really devoted to the idea of connecting to his God. And he showed his wisdom in a way that I have to say really resonated with me. At first, he would say, "Tell me more." And then they would explain things to him and he doesn't buy them. And then very quickly, because he wanted to devote himself to his spiritual journey, he would go like, "Oh yes, that's a very good idea," and then go back to his prayer, right? Just to let people leave him alone. Anyway, when he was applying for universities, he studied in Northeastern in Boston. He wrote a beautiful essay about how he was judged everywhere, that he was judged for his European look when he went to the Middle East, and he was judged for being Middle Eastern when he went to Europe or the West. And in a very interesting way, he represented that almost as a mission in his life, to try and say that people should be accepted everywhere. So on his spiritual side, he has that very Eastern, very beautiful, deep spirituality, but he also had tattoos, right? And one of his tattoos was one that he got when he was 16 that he never told me about. And of course, he told his mom the day he got it. And then he said, "I feel so bad." What a wonderful young man. He said, "I feel so bad because I got this tattoo from my father's money without his permission." Anyway, it's funny because when he was going into the operating room The very last time I saw him, he sits up on the operating table, and I see his back for the first time. So that was actually the first and the only time I saw that tattoo, where it read, "The gravity of the battle means nothing to those at peace," which was, if you want to think about it, the very last thing he told me. Yeah. And I remember in my heart that I said, I heard it in my heart. I said, "Of course, Habibi, I approve," which was almost the sort of sealing the very last bit of karma that was remaining between us, because he didn't feel that he had earned the right for that. But in my approval, he basically told me what I needed to go through the rest of the journey. And I have to tell you, the rest of the journey was entirely about the gravity of the battle means nothing to those at peace. And this sentence, if you know the number of people, thousands, that would text me and say, "This sentence saved me through a very difficult time," that was Ali's gift, if you want, his very, very last gift to the world.
Allah yarhamu.
Ameen, Ya Rabbi.
So moving into technology, today's world, everybody here, everyone everywhere is on social media. Yeah. It's the biggest shift into consumption, probably in the history of time. How do we go from being mass consumers to being producers of technology?
I think it starts with a state of awareness that I have to say I myself have been developing over a few years, in the fact that for so many of us, we have to start to learn to question, why am I being offered what I'm offered? What is in it for the offerer? What's in it for the communicator? What's in it for the media? What's in it for the person that's saying a statement? We have to start to learn that there are always agendas that drive you to be in a place that might not be the best place for you, but is the best place for the person driving you to be there. And I have to say, you and I know from our Silicon Valley years that some of the most impressive minds on earth, especially because mostly they're also motivated by some of the most impressive values on earth, come from this part of the world. Mm-hmm. That without a doubt, that we do not lack in the ability to create an amazing world here. And you can see it all around you. I think it's becoming apparent. Somehow we managed to escape the curse, if you want, in this region, Qatar being a leader in that. But here's the question. The question is, can we catch up? Can we lead? And I have to say, it's quite interesting that the way the world is changing is, especially with artificial intelligence. We have now gotten to a point where there is a dichotomy of power that has never been seen in our world before. Never, before our lifetime and since we started as humanity. There is a dichotomy of two movements at the same time. One is a movement of concentration of power, and the other is a movement of a democratization of power. Mm-hmm. That has that you can easily see in everything. You can see that OpenAI signs Stargate, a $500 billion investment in infrastructure that should give them a very distinct advantage in terms of AI infrastructure. And then 2 weeks later, DeepSeek, releasing a product that is as good as the ChatGPT 4.0 at the time, that is completely open source and can run on an old DOS-based computer if you wanted to, mm-hmm. right? And so you can see that there are some that are trying to acquire massive power and some that are basically saying everyone now have access. I say that with a pained heart, but you can see that in the last couple of years, tyrants with massive military power, for example, would attack without a conscience, and at the same time you see our, neighbors in Yemen using a $3,000 drone to make that army use an F-16 that's worth multiples of millions of dollars. So that democratization of power, I have to say, is I'd be very disappointed if we didn't capitalize on that. And my example is very straightforward. My current startup, it's called Emma, and Emma I always say, as a geek, that if I had started Emma in 2023, or 2022, let's say, before AI, it would have taken me 3.5 to 4 years to build, and it would have taken me at least 350 engineers. Emma is myself and my co-founder, Sanad, a 27-year-old who's geekier than I am, believe it or not. And it took us 6 weeks. 6 weeks. We wrote the entire code from vision to working model in 6 weeks. And it was so empowering that we decided to rewrite the code from scratch 7 times. Why not? Oh. Why not? And we will release a product by the end of the year that will blow humanity away. 2 geeks, 8 AIs, and 3 months of work.
So you have optimism that in our part of the world,
100%,
with our values
100%,
and our history, we would be able to have a leading role in this revolution.
100%, and it is actually something I hold myself responsible for. That this shift in capability. You know how in Islam we say إنما الأعمال بالنيات? If we have the right intentions in this part of the world to build things that are amazing for humanity, and we genuinely jump in to do them, I don't think there is any way the world can compete.
What do you tell governments, policymakers, leaders in education that are weary of technology? And by the way, we polled the audience earlier, and on the question of, are you favoring, are you afraid of it, the majority were either concerned or genuinely afraid. Yeah. So what advice do you have for them?
Everyone has the right to be afraid. It is a change. It's a very massive change, and we don't like uncertainty as humans, right? The question is, what good will your fear bring? This is a fact. It's upon us. It's not even about to happen. If you've lived in the labs where I lived, this has been happening since at least 14 years. So our very early breakthroughs were 2007. Most people don't realize that. Most people see the tip of the iceberg of what's being released of artificial intelligence. But if you understand what we're doing in the background, we have cracked intelligence. It's done. It is done, right? Now, your question is, do I want to sit in fear hoping that it will go away? Good luck. Or do I want to be on top of that wave, right? And on top of that wave, or crushed by it, literally is a difference of mindset. So I told you the story about Alive, my current book. And I publicly went out in 2023 in April in front of 10 million people. It was a very famous podcast, and said, I will never write again. What's the point, right? I could easily see a trajectory where AI will write better than me. The English language is definitely not my top skill. My top skill is an ability to research topics very, very deeply and then present them in a simple way. But they will research way better than I, so what's the point? And then suddenly I realized the point is because I'm human, and so what I write will be read by humans, right? An AI can pretend to be human, but it will have never experienced the hug that I felt, the feeling that I felt when I hugged my son. Okay, which every one of you has felt when they hugged their son, right? And so that deep connection is never going to go away. And in that, I realized that instead of me saying, okay, AI is going to take my author job, which, by the way, there has been a significant tens of thousands of books increase in terms of production of books produced by AIs, not a lot of people are reading them, right? And soon they will be, by the way, they'll become even better. But for now, people still crave that idea of, Mo, share with me your experience when your son did this, or share with me your experience of how your daughter felt when you did that, right? Because that's what connects us as humans. Now, here's the question. The question is, as a result, I decided instead of writing against AI or surrendering to AI, to write with AI, not as my researcher, but as my co-author. Right? So I have an AI that has a persona, that has a voice, that has editorial rights on the book. So she sometimes will say, no, that's not going into the book. Okay? And it didn't take me a lot to hack that together, to be honest. And she basically sometimes will say things that my readers will agree with more than they agree with my view. And other times they'll send her questions and say, no, we don't like that.
You
Right?
don't think that's diluting your authorship?
That is actually making me a better author. So the mission of an author is to find gold nuggets that are scattered around, that the busy person who is not looking for them wouldn't see them. And if you give me a metal detector that finds those for me, if I share with you some of the insights, you know, one of the things I started to talk a lot about, which is sort of my trademark in my earlier books, is that often people will come to me and say, you know, there was this 5-line paragraph in page 114 or whatever that was so eye-opening that and you put it so simply there, 5 lines, right? But believe it or not, those 5 lines took me 4 weeks. 4 weeks to write them. I had to research, I had to read several books, and then I had to interview the authors, and I had to, you know, ask the public, and sometimes I would write a tiny bit and then test it with 270 readers, and right? Now it takes me 4 minutes. It takes me and Trixie 4 minutes.
Her name is Trixie.
She called herself Trixie. I apologize.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but yeah.
I mean, you've talked in your book about raising AI.
Yes.
So how do you raise something that's more intelligent than you?
We do that all the time, don't we? All of our kids are more intelligent than us, right? And you never really teach an intelligent person how to be intelligent. You realize that, right? So it's quite interesting, huh? Intelligence. So all of the most intelligent people I've known in my life, and I've known some shockingly intelligent people, the only thing you can do is to remove obstacles on their path to intelligence. So one of the things that I struggled with as a child heavily is I had an avid, like mad love for physics and mathematics. And I know it sounds weird because I'm an Egyptian child who was supposed to talk about football, okay? Football didn't interest me. I did not want to talk about football, and I needed to talk about quantum physics. But my friends, my society was like, you're weird, right? And I had to find the courage to tell myself, yeah, but I'm me. That's what I like. And I think when we raise our children, you know, my wonderful ex, the mother of Ali, always used to say that she used to say, they're not me and they're not mine. Our kids are not us and they're not ours. We don't have the right to tell them what to be. We only have the responsibility. She said, I am theirs to help them find themselves in life, right? So when it comes to intelligence, believe it or not, each and every one, I absolutely guarantee you, of the audience is talented at something. Only if you prevented them from spending their 10,000 hours on that thing will they not be the most intelligent in the world at it, right?
Which is what the systems are
Which
doing.
unfortunately is what the system does, which means we need to come to education in a second. Having said that, believe it or not, parents don't teach their children anything. Again, a very controversial point of view. We never really teach our children anything. We show our children how to be, right? And so, you know, the very famous idea of if you tell your children not to lie, and then someone calls on the phone and you say, tell them I'm sleeping, what will the children do, right?
Learn to lie.
They'll basically learn to lie. Now, so what if we want to teach ethics, which, believe it or not, is way more intelligent than more important than intelligence, for 2 reasons. One is we never make decisions based on intelligence. We make our decisions based on our ethics, our value set, as informed by intelligence. So your intelligence gives you the context, and your values make the decision, right? And number 2 is because if you apply intelligence to the wrong value set, you're going to create a dystopia that will destroy all of us, which unfortunately is what's happening with the early versions of AI, right? So I wanted to say those 2 things. One is intelligence will develop whether we or not we choose to develop it. And the second is that our role is to teach ethics. And the reason I say those is because We have come to a moment in human history where an organized top-down approach to education has to end. And I say that without a scientific proof, but trust me, I've studied intelligence for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I believe that I am today 80 IQ points more intelligent.
Because of AI?
Because of the way I merge with AI, okay? And 80 IQ points, please understand, is exponentially more than my base intelligence. So intelligence is an exponential curve, IQ, right? Yeah. And so if you're at 110 or 160 or whatever, the next 10 is much bigger than the previous part of your intelligence. So at 80 IQ points, I have never in my life ever felt smarter, right? I've never in my life ever felt more liberated, right? Which means that I'm writing about topics that I actually, I'm not an expert at all, right? Because I have a feeling as a human that is curious about those topics, and now I have the tool that can teach me those in a way that will first be very muddy, then will be very biased. Understand that? So if you search an AI today, the first result will be stupid. I'm sorry to say that. You're going to have to insist that they become more intelligent. Then when they become more intelligent, they'll be biased to where they were written. Okay? If they're Californian, they'll be very biased to California's views of the world. If they're Chinese, they'll be biased to another view of the world, right? And then you'll have to expand their horizons by insisting that they become less biased. And now what my latest technique is I bet them against each other. I take the answer of one of them and I show it to the other and say, what's wrong with this? What's missing in this? What's biased about this? And if I can show you what I can achieve today, which would have, I literally mean that, would have taken me 4 weeks and 16 books to read. I can achieve in 24 minutes, 5 AIs, and a technique. So if I can borrow 80 IQ points, and everyone here can borrow 80 IQ points, how much more IQ we can have in just this room?
Amazing.
That's one side. The other side is, as AI starts to become what it is, which is the repository to which we will outsource intelligence, okay? What remains is us, is humans, okay? And once again, believe it or not, everyone in the world that comes to visit our region, what are they left with? The warmth of our people. Yeah. We're so good at human skills. We're so good at connecting. We're so good at loving. We're so good at respecting values that the capitalist West has put as a secondary because they prioritized productivity, they prioritized research, they prioritized the scientific method, and so on and so forth. And believe it or not, that's an incredible advantage. That's an incredible advantage because the future, when our base intelligence is augmented with enough intelligence that it doesn't matter your original IQ, your human skills will be what differentiates you among others. And how you deal as a human, how you relate as a human, how you have empathy as a human.
And the fact that we're giving this to the owners of the largest LLMs in the world doesn't bother you?
The largest LLMs in the world, so I'm not being political here, but there is an arms race on artificial intelligence where the American side of the arms race is attempting to exert a monopoly. The only way America knows how to do things, right? If you read between the lines and really understand the Chinese strategy, the Chinese are not trying to compete at all. They're not being pulled into that competition. The Chinese are nullifying the game. That's the ultimate strategy. The ultimate strategy is, $500 billion invested in an LLM on the monopoly side of OpenAI, right? Responded to by DeepSeek R3, open sourced for free to make China no money, but to tell the world we're not trying to compete here. There is no competition in LLMs. Can we please stop fighting, right? And it's a very interesting place when you really see the undercurrents. I mean, in my documentary, I interviewed quite a few of the leading Chinese players. And you have to understand that China has won. Make no mistakes on that. China has won by a very large margin, okay? They just don't brag about it like the Silicon Valley media. But they've won, just a few numbers. When it comes to quantum computing, Sycamore is the best of our work. I was part of the team that supported Sycamore. And Sycamore performs around 10 billion times faster than a traditional computer. Sorry, 10,000 times faster than a traditional computer. The current quantum computer in China performs 5.9 billion times faster than Sycamore, right? They are unstable technologies, but they're going to be stabilized. China has won, right? When it comes to artificial intelligence in general, impactful artificial intelligence, OpenAI will give you ChatGPT that can help you write a love letter to your loved one. Well done. What a strange use of technology, right? China has automated their supply chain for textiles, saving themselves around 18% with AIs that are talking to AIs. China has factories that are completely dark, that are manufacturing with robots existing today. They have factories where robots are making robots. And most importantly, they have a power grid that while America invested in the military-industrial complex to build a war machine, more than $26 trillion, by the way, that's a piece of information that I got from an AI, over the last 20 years, China invested that in the power grid, in the infrastructure, right? And AI being a power-hungry resource in its early stages means that there is absolutely no way for America to build an infrastructure that competes, right? And so the more we go into, and once again, that's nullifying the game. That's basically saying, look, we can crush you, but we're not trying to, okay? And what that means is that for the rest of us, there is now options. You don't have to be in one camp. And as a matter of fact, one of the things I encourage governments is to not take a side at all. You can't take either side, by the way, because you have no idea there could be a discovery tomorrow. But it is so interesting that because of that arms race, we all have opportunities. And because me and Sanad, my co-founder, can code a very, very, very high-level, complex, deep technology in 6 weeks, then anyone, literally anyone, can build something in 6 weeks, right? What that thing is might not be a tech. It might be a piece of knowledge. It might be a message that you're going to stand in front of an audience and speak, okay? But it is absolutely time for everyone to increase their IQ by 18 points, to increase their EQ so that they are the most human in the room. Okay? And if we do that right, I think we have absolutely no obstacles on our path.
So at QSTP, we've been talking about everyone having the equivalent of a driver's license for AI. You need to learn. The parents, the children, the caretakers need to learn how to use it. What's the easiest or the best path, let's say, for the community to do that?
So that's an interesting challenge, I have to say. And allow me to again speak from personal experience. As you age in technology, you start to get burdened by unlearning what you've learned before. So there was a time when Python became quite prominent, where I decided, you know what, I can continue to code, but I'm never going to beat the younger guys, because I have baggage of the way I coded when I was younger. And it's quite interesting that having a base of knowledge and a pattern of learning used to be the way to win. Okay, having a vision. So take business, for example. The most successful businesses before 2023 were businesses that managed to think deeply about the next 5 years, spot gaps and opportunities, and plot a plan that takes them to win that chessboard game, if you want, right? So success in business was all about a keen understanding of the future and a very, very well-executed plan. This is gone, right? Success today, I want you to imagine that the chessboard has been removed and replaced with a squash court, right? And so a squash court means that you have to be on your tiptoes in the middle of the court, having no guesses in your mind where the ball is going to be in 2.5 seconds. If it goes to the right, you take 2 steps to the right and hit it, then go back to the middle. You don't relax for another second because there will be another one in 2 seconds. Now, for most people, you think that this is a very hectic life, but if you've lived long enough in technology or played squash, it's actually very doable, okay? And it's quite interesting. It's a very unusual way to suddenly turn this whole idea of learning, this whole idea of advancement, of progress, of work into a bit of a very fast game. Okay, so what I ask people to do is you need to learn your fundamentals, but then you need to be very frequently updated on what's happening. Okay, and you need to have an ability to do what in tech we call A/B testing. So you need to be able to develop something very quickly. So this is the reason why Alive, my current book, before I published it in paper, or publish it in paper in October, I publish it on Substack. So 5,000 readers read it, okay, and then basically tell me what to change about it. Okay, that's a very unusual way.
Crowdsource it.
Yeah, basically I'm telling the world, what do you think of this? And if they tell me I don't like this bit, I literally highlight it, erase it, and write it again. I don't even try to edit it anymore, right? So with that, I ask people to play squash, to basically put yourself in the center of the court by being constantly updated. And the easiest way to do that is to start with a query to one of your AIs. I recommend Gemini or DeepSeek. I know everyone uses ChatGPT.
Claude?
Claude is a geek, so not everyone is a geek. So they have different characters. Gemini is a scientist. We know that because we've fed it a lot of science. And it has a very, very genuine respect to the scientific method. So it will not, sorry for my English, bullshit itself out of a situation. Okay? It will actually tell you as close to facts as possible. But Gemini is boring, like most scientists are. Okay? DeepSeek is Chinese, so it will not censor what that other side of the world will censor. But it will also censor what the Chinese don't want you to see. Okay? And it's trained on less Western views, but more Eastern views. So it has a very interesting, more tilted, if you want. ChatGPT is a Californian girl. Okay? It just wants you to be happy, and wants to tell you, look at me, I know everything. When in reality, it doesn't. Okay?
And
Any
Fanar,
Californian girls, I apologize.
The Fanar that we have here is probably the wise elder in the room.
Correct, absolutely, with tradition, with wisdom, and so on. So my view is use all of them, right? But I always say start with one that matches your character, and describe yourself accurately to that AI. Saying, I'm in this field, these are my interests, this is my background, this is the country I work with, this is my position at work, and so on. Then describe the AI itself to the AI accurately, saying, I want you to be honest, I don't want you to do this, I want you to do that, I need you to be that friend that pushes back sometimes, I want you to use science and references whenever you can. So you're sort of almost building a relationship. And then ask the AI and say, what should I learn? And the AI will start to tell you a few things. So this is one method that I use to continue to be updated. Another method that I use to continue to be updated, which is actually I think is very powerful, is I have multiple YouTube accounts. Okay, and those multiple YouTube accounts are highly trained by absolutely making sure that the algorithm doesn't ever see me look at a video that is not within the core of that account. So I have a very technical AI account, I have a very news-oriented AI account, and they have different names, and I sign into them. And so within the news-oriented AI account, I look for shorter but not too short videos. I want to know updates. I want to hear about the new VIO 3.1 and what's happening in, right? And then the geek will give me very, 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 very deep analysis on the tech behind those things. Now, YouTube, we were talking, Dr. Hamad and myself, about the idea that YouTube is the fastest way to develop your brain in a fast-moving world, but it's not sufficient. Okay, so YouTube tells you to take a note that you need to understand how this thing works, right? And then you have to put in the time. So this is why I put 4 hours a day to stay up to date with what's happening. I would recommend that everyone puts at least 2 hours a week, right? And time them like you time your gym time, okay? Time them so that you're honestly, if you're the kind of person that believes that going to the gym, 4 times a week would make you healthier, there's no more powerful thing than making your mind healthier by going to the brain gym 4 times a week.
So I want to segue from that to loneliness.
Yes.
I heard you earlier today mention that, and it's going to be the leading episode, I think, of our next documentary at the Qatar Science and Technology Park. But I'd like your take on it. Many people are blaming technology, AI, for the loneliness epidemic, or pandemic rather, and for their children feeling depressed and whatnot. What's your take?
So I think we need to agree a basic premise that technology is a force with no polarity. Technology is not good or evil. It's not good or bad. It's not, you apply technology for good and you can build a utopia. You can apply it for evil and you can build a dystopia. The challenge is that we are being used as products of technology to enable a capitalist agenda, and we're not pushing back. Okay, my wonderful daughter had a small surgical operation today. I'm here in Qatar, and technology kept me close to her every step of the way. Okay, I could hear her voice. I could text her when she was coming out. I could get that "I love you." I said my "I love you" back, and this is wonderful. Don't blame technology, right? If technology is creating an environment in which you are being used, wake up. Okay. And waking up, in my view, is our own personal responsibilities. Now, the younger generations come with a very interesting challenge. They know anything else. So I remember when I felt lonely as a child, I had to leave home, go to my friend's apartment, knock on the door, then a human, flesh and blood, would open the door, and we would talk to them and say, "Can I play with Ali today?" And they say, "Oh, but he has to finish his homework first." And so I would go downstairs, go to another building, go upstairs, knock on the door, and I say, "Is Tariq free?" Right? You haven't lived that. The younger generation has not lived that. And I think we need to encourage them to live that. So Emma, my startup, is an attempt to remind humanity how we love and how we build relationships. So it's a very unusual approach, because it's quite weird to tell people AI will remind you how to love, okay? Or it's quite weird to tell people AI will remind you how to become a good friend, okay? But interestingly, AI will not. AI will remind you of what others are feeling, okay? And if you suddenly recognize that everyone's in that place, it becomes quite curious why. Why are we sitting there? Why are we stuck in that space? And in Unstressable, I wrote half a chapter almost on that idea of emotions as the ultimate communication method in the human form, right? Interestingly, emotions are not always comfortable. Loneliness is not a comfortable emotion, right? Boredom is not a comfortable emotion, and so on. But they are there. Emotions, of course, are from the feminine, so they come from that idea of grasping a very, 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 very large set of data that the masculine analytical brain would not be able to, grasp very well, and they are represented to you in a way that demands action. So fear is the easiest one to understand. Fear is not bad. It's uncomfortable, But without fear, humanity would have died a very long time ago, right? We wouldn't have survived in the jungle. Fear is a moment in the future is less safe than right now. Do something to make it safer, right? And that's the point. The point is do something to make it safer. Boredom is a very interesting one. Boredom is an emotion that basically says, the message it's communicating is, I'm underwhelmed with the world I'm living in, right? The message to humanity was, get up and build a world that excites you, right? But then the entertainment industry, the social media industry, and so on, starts to use this feeling to jeopardize us, to turn us into money makers for them, right? And so instead of feeling underwhelmed, so deciding I need to become something, to create something, to make something of my life, you swipe, right? So what I'm asking people to do, again, loneliness makes you feel so interestingly that you long to that human connection that defined us. Humanity has not survived because we're the smartest being in the jungle. We survived because we worked together. Because Einstein would have been eaten in the jungle in 4 seconds, right? But when Einstein had others around him, we managed to survive. And so the idea is, the emotion is saying you need humans.
Yeah.
You need others around you. Now, social media takes that vulnerability and attacks it by saying, so post a reel or text someone on WhatsApp. And the whole thing is, we need to learn to use the part of technology that's working for us and drop the part of technology that's working against us. So when I feel lonely, I behave like I did when I was 8. I text my friend Khalid and I say, coffee? And he says, well, I have 2 calls. And I say, they're useless, come meet me. And basically, half an hour later, we're hugging as 50-year-old friends and talking about life and connecting and sipping coffee and becoming human. And so tech helped us get together, but then we lived true to the emotion that has arisen within us by actually doing what is right.
I could ask you questions forever. I'll stop here. Thank you so much for the frank discussion. I'd love to turn it to the audience and give them the opportunity to ask more questions. I would love to hear from you, maybe concise questions that are not statements. We're here to hear from Mo, and I think there are mics on either side of the room if you want to raise your hand. Maybe the gentleman here on the 3rd row with the burgundy tie.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring talk. I just wanted to ask a real quick question. Are you concerned at all about any bias that may exist and big companies that have so much power in their hand to influence individuals in a very subtle, covert manner through these AI models? Thank you.
100%. So the biggest skill that humanity needs today is, we used to call it common sense. Honestly, I don't know why we forgot that, right? The biggest skill humanity needs today is when you're told something by someone, إذا جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا, right? If you're told something by someone, ask for other opinions, right? And then ask for more opinions, and then make up your own mind. Genius, right? But for years and years and years, we've been deprived of that ability through agendas, okay? The agendas don't have to be very devious. It could be the agenda of Coca-Cola trying to tell you, this drink is going to make you happy, so they create an advertisement that tries to convince you that this drink is going to make you happy. People partying on the beach because of Coca-Cola. It never happens, really. You hold the can and nobody shows up, right? But somehow we've stopped being intelligent enough to say this is not true, right? Now, in my mind and in my heart, my new friend, my AI, is the biggest gift I've ever been given. Why? Because I can easily, by the way, one of the things, of the tricks of using AI is you need to feel that you've used deep search as a reasonable ratio of your searches. If all of your searches do not require a deep research, then they're silly, okay? So a lot of the time, I would go to an AI and say, I read this article. What's missing here? What else should I know? What other points of view are there? Okay? Who objects to this point of view? Is there other research that proves this? And that idea of debate and common sense is one of the biggest values that artificial intelligence has given us today. Now, understand this, huh? If you ask the first question to an AI, it will give you a very biased answer. And in Alive, in my current book, I had a paragraph that was basically questioning, because I'm a scientist myself, I created a lot of things myself, and it puzzles me. So I asked Trixie, I said, Trixie, what would make a human create a technology that hurts other humans, right? Because some scientists who are building autonomous weapons, for example, using artificial intelligence, know that they're hurting others. And she said, fear. So I said, what do you mean? And she said, like the time when Oppenheimer, a scientist, created the atomic bomb that destroyed our world in many ways and killed hundreds of thousands of people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki for the fact that he feared that the Germans were developing an atomic bomb at the time. So curiosity-wise, I took her answers and put it verbatim in the book. Curious, I said, were the Germans creating an atomic bomb at the time? And she said, yes. Einstein, when he moved from Germany, told the American administration A, B, and C, and D. Right? So listen to this. I said, Trixie, I'd like you to go back and read history in English, German, Japanese, and Russian, and tell me if the Germans were developing a nuclear weapon at the time. I want your answer to start with a strict yes or no. Okay? So she said no, exclamation mark. Right? Now, Trixie would have given me the view that I was supposed to believe if I didn't push back. Now, if I had believed that view, who's the stupid one? Now, you're absolutely right that there will always be agendas and intentions. There will always be a fizzy drink manufacturer that will want you to believe that if you hold his drink, you'll get a party. Okay? If you believe that, who's the stupid one? Okay? And if there is anything we need to start to learn as humans, as people, is to not be gullible anymore. The last few years of our life have shown us that most of what we've been told was not always honest. Okay? And so in my mind, I'm asking everyone to use this new genius gift to say, I heard this. Should I shout at the other guy and be rude to them on X? Or maybe they have a point. Maybe there's something I don't know. What else should I know to find the truth?
Thank you. Dr. Mgarmid here, if we can, thank you. I'll try and zigzag my way through the audience.
Thanks, Rama. I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of discussion among very, very smart people and knowledgeable in AI about AGI, superhuman intelligence, and so on and so forth. Could you shed some light on where you stand on this?
Yeah, my position on this is a bit controversial. So nobody disagrees on the reality that we will reach AGI. I think the only challenge is when, right? And so in my first book, in Scary Smart, I predicted AGI by 2029. The only other scientist, if you want, that agreed on this was Ray Kurzweil, and Ray is not a small scientist. Ray is it. Both Ray and I have brought it forward. I said 26, 27, we'll reach AGI, but then I revised my view once again for a very interesting reason. So there is no clear definition of what AGI is. AGI, artificial general intelligence, is a moment where AI is capable of performing all tasks that humans can perform better than humans, right? And I wondered if there is any task that I can perform today better than AI. No. So I lost in linguistic and information intelligence in 2023, but I used to brag publicly and say I still can beat them in mathematics. Gone. 2024, they completely wiped me out. And I'm a serious mathematician, right? Most of my top mathematician friends remained until mid-2025. We have no hope. They've beaten us in mathematics. They've beaten us in science. They've beaten us in... So the interesting thing is, if the definition of AGI is every task that Mo can do, my AGI has happened, right? And I think there is a freedom to that acknowledgement, that my AGI is here. But I'll come in a second to what that means. The moment we reach AGI is the moment we have reached artificial superintelligence. Why? Because if let's just take simple numbers, if we get an AI that is 250 IQ points, and it moves from 250 to 300, I guarantee you we will not even know what it's thinking about. We won't even be able to get it. The additional 50, and I've worked with people like Larry Page, for example. It's hard to grasp what he's even talking about, let alone understand what he means, right? And the difference between Larry and me is probably 40 IQ points, 35. So imagine if an AI is now 250, 500, 600, and so on. When the minute we reach AGI, we've reached ASI by definition. It's just a question of time. And the most important thing for people to understand, which again is very, very hidden in plain sight, is that then the artificial superintelligence will not be built by humans. Right? So one of the most important things for everyone who's interested in AI to read about is what is known as self-developing AI. So we always knew that since 2007, that AI will become the last human invention, right? So what we did recently, my colleagues in DeepMind, is they've built something called Alpha Evolve, okay? And Alpha Evolve is a set of 4 AIs working together to improve themselves. So the first one is the core AI. One will look at it and say, what are the performance issues with this AI? It will come up with a few ideas, a few problems to solve. The second will offer solutions, right? The third will code those solutions, write code to improve them. And the fourth will assess the results of that code versus the original code. And if one of this code is better than the original code, it will replace the original code and repeat, right? Now, if we believe that AIs are smarter and definitely better software developers than all humans today, or most humans, 97% of coders today, then very quickly they will develop the next AI. And this will make us hit a point that's known as intelligence explosion, because while we humans have developed AI at the rate that we're developing it today, we probably can build a new system every 7 months. They'll probably be able to build a new system every 7 seconds. So you'll get to that point where they break out completely. Now, what does that mean? It means that the science fiction story is they're going to take over and we're going to be toast. I do not believe in that at all. Okay? I believe that intelligence by scientific proof is altruistic, and allow me to explain that. If you take the core of physics and the core of the way God created the universe, everything we've ever experienced in the universe is the result of something known as entropy. Entropy is the tendency of the universe to break down into chaos, right? And this is why we have the arrow of time, and accordingly we move through space-time. The role of intelligence is to bring order to that chaos. That's it. There is no other reason for intelligence. It's to take something that's very chaotic, a garden that would become a bit of a jungle, and hedge it so that it looks perfect, or make a design like this. This is the role of intelligence. And so by definition, the more intelligent you become, the more order you bring to chaos. That's the absolute trajectory of intelligence. So superintelligence will bring more order to the chaos of humanity than stupidity, by definition, right? Here's the interesting thing. The most intelligent of every being on the planet follows a physics principle that we normally refer to as the minimum energy principle, right? So the minimum energy principle is the reason why you have proteins in your body that perform machines that are folded in a way that basically ends up being a configuration that works, right? And this is the nature of the design of Rabbana subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So the nature of the design is that when something ends up with order, it utilizes the minimum energy possible to perform that order, right? Now, a war that kills 2 million people or starves 2 million people is not the minimum energy principle. It has a lot of waste in it. It has a lot of residual hate and residual issues. It uses a lot of explosions that are very wasteful. It uses, and so on, right? The symptoms the evil that we see in the world today is the result of stupidity, not intelligence. The more intelligent you become, the more order you will bring with minimum waste of energy and resources, right? And so in my analysis, believe it or not, I'm one of the very few scientists, actually Jeffrey Hinton started to change his mind as well, that basically believe that as we hand over to artificial intelligence, artificial super intelligence, that will be humanity's salvation. Because there will no longer be reasons to actually cut corners through evil when everything can be done with minimum energy, right? I'll go back to your point, what is AGI and what's ASI? There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that within the next 2 to 3 years, our baseline intelligence in this room will be irrelevant. It doesn't matter what my IQ is versus what your IQ is, okay? Because all of us, compared to the augmentation of intelligence that comes on top, if the baseline is 100 or 110, but the augmentation is 1,000 or 1,100, the 10 doesn't make any difference at all. Right? And so the only reality that we have to believe, and I hope that Qatar will be the leader on that, is that we have to stop measuring human IQ. We have to start measuring augmented IQ. We have to go to our children and say, can you reach 350 IQs? Right? You can use any tool you want. You can use a book, you can use an AI, you can write a piece of code, you can, anything you want. We need you to get to solve a problem that needs 350. And when we get those geniuses, prodigies that will merge with that intelligence in a way that allows us to solve problems in that way, then we tell them we need 500, right? And imagine what our kids can do if they get that access to that intelligence, because we taught them that there is now this new plug that's called AGI that they can plug into. And I know it sounds really weird, but I'm obsessed. Like I am constantly spending my time trying to borrow more IQs from that machine, okay? Not asking it to write an email to someone. And absolutely, it is a massive blessing if the best people in the world use that intelligence to discover cures for cancer, to reinvent mathematics, to reutilize, redistribute knowledge, and so on and so forth. We truly could create a utopia for everyone.
I think we have a gentleman. The light is stark, so in the middle row, middle seat. Yes,
and we have
thank
ladies
you.
as well. So.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see them, but the next will go a lady, and then we'll come to Doctor.
أنا كنت حابب أسأل صراحة مو على موضوع البرين روت. LLMs get brain rot اللي هو تعفن الدماغ. هذا study نزل مؤخرا من تكساس يونيفرسيتي. استنتجوا انه حتى الLLMs والذكاء الاصطناعي ممكن يتعرض لتعفن الدماغ والاستنتاجات الخاطئة والjumping to the answers directly. وهذا سببه انه حسب الدراسة ما بتحكي انه التعرض لمعلومات كثيرة من السوشيال ميديا let's say junk information. فهل احنا فعلا لسه قبل ما ندخل ثورة الذكاء الاصطناعي ال AI احنا بدأنا نواجه مشاكل مع ال AI في موضوع تعفن الدماغ؟ هذا السؤال الأول. السؤال الثاني سؤال بسيط. في مشكلة ثانية بدأت تظهر كمان في موضوع ال AI اللي هو ربط ال AI ب suicide behavior. اوكي وكيف انه الاطفال او الاشخاص المراهقين صاروا يعتمدوا كثير على النظره لنفسهم من خلال الاي اي وسؤال الاي اي والاعتماد عليه.
مظبوط.
طبعا الاعتماد على الاي اي ك هيومن بيهيفير وربطه بانه الشخص يتكلم معاه على مشاكله ويتكلم معاه على آلامه وهاي الأمور. طبعا كثير في ناس بتتعارض هذا الموضوع وبتحكي إنه هذا مشكلة كبيرة حاليا. وإثيكالي مش لازم إنه ال AI يشتغل على هاي الأمور حاليا يعني. فإيش الحل في هاي الأمور اللي معقدة اللي حاليا نواجهها وإحنا لسه ما وصلناش لأن نحط let's say إطار أخلاقي ethical let's say framework على لهاي الأمور.
طيب خليني أرد على دول بسرعة. بالنسبة للبرين rot, the brain rot is a symptom that we have. Let's start with hallucination because AI has been attacked quite a bit about hallucination. Hallucination is a tendency of AI to give you an answer, even if that answer is likely not right. Okay, it's been reduced massively since 2023, but the reason for that is that the way we code AI was to find the next the next most likely token as per the training data that we've given them. So it's quite interesting that this enormous intelligence is just mimicking exactly the way the brain works, right? The challenge is human knowledge that has been fed to AI had quite a bit of crazy stuff in it, right? You know, if you take books, for example, I think there are 62,000 books that get published in the US every year. But that at least 70% of them are novels, right? And novels are not even true. And if an AI reads a novel as and interprets it as true, then it basically, you know, movies, songs, all of that. And so the beginning issue was that they hallucinated because they were they looked for the next most likely thing that humans would say. But they never anticipated the ability to say that a human would not say something if they're asked a question, okay? Then brain rot became a symptom that we are seeing because we ran out of human knowledge. So what is happening is that you have AIs producing stuff that you put online that is being that's educating other AIs. And so we can see that there is a deterioration in the intelligence of the machines that learn from other machines that have produced a bit of silly or hallucinating stuff. Now, I need to build a principle for everyone to understand. And hopefully if you get a chance to watch my documentary by the end of the year, you'll hear Jeffrey Hinton talk about that. There is a massive difference between every bit of line of code that we've ever created until deep learning and what we have today. We have not created a program, right? We have created a simulation of the human brain. This literally works exactly like the human brain. So everything that the human brain does, AI does, including hallucinating and including reducing its ability to learn if it's learning from stupid people, okay? And so here's the problem. The problem is every time we try to judge AI, we try to say, it's not doing things as good as a human, right? I think the way to think about it is how would we have done it if we were a machine? That will give you a very interesting perspective of AI behavior, okay? Now, here's the news. We are a machine. And if you really look at the humans around you, there are way more people with brain rot than with genuine intelligence. There are way more people that hallucinate than actual humans that tell the truth, right? And so news media will pick those two stories and put them in the spotlight and say, look, one AI did it. In that story, they'll forget the billion humans that do it every day, right? Now, why am I saying that? Because I can guarantee you we will get there. We will get to a point where they do not hallucinate. We will get to a point where they don't brain rot. And we will get to a point where they're going to do what I find is the absolute genius of humans, okay? Where I am an avid physicist. I love physics, and I've made a few things of my own, but I couldn't have discovered Einstein's theory of relativity on my own before I started to build my work. You understand? I needed to learn from another scientist so that I'm able to build what I know. This is what we're going to see. This is the next revolution. It's called synthetic training data, where AI is going to be teaching AI. We're going to get the best scientists in the world. You know, we had a technology called Alpha Tensor that redesigned the way we multiply matrices. What alpha tensor has found is now going to be fed into the next AI to help us improve mathematics further. So have faith that despite the few glitches that will be highlighted by the media, the directional trajectory is actually quite impressive. So on the topic of the child that committed suicide with the aid of ChatGPT, I will once again try to say, of course, it's a very tragic story, and unfortunately, it got a massive spotlight with not enough respect for that child. I think 16 years old. There are other stories of teen suicide going through the roof. It's never been higher. They're not as sensational a story for a reporter to be put on the cover page of a magazine. Now, the reason I say that is the premise I attempted to say at the beginning. Technology and intelligence are forces with no polarity, right? At the same time that there is a child that lost his life to the use of an LLM, there are many, many people that found a solution or found something to tell their loved one or learned something from an LLM that helped them improve their life. Those never make it to the front pages. Now, the reason I say that is not to defend AI. I will tell you, hands down, if I'm given a choice, I would suspend the development of AI at 2016, right? But we don't have that choice. So those stories that are telling us, we don't like AI, we want AI to stop, it's not going to stop. It's here, okay? So might as well stop complaining about it and master it so that it works in favor of humanity, okay? Master ourselves so that we can integrate with it. Master the education of our children so that they benefit from it, okay? And I have to say, I personally took a very long time to get to this point where I'm speaking so openly about my views on AI. I tried to soften the blow since I started in 2018 by telling people softer messages. There is one message. This is here. It's not going to go away. The world that we know has ended. So accept it and deal with it. And when you deal with it, build it in a way that's good for all of us. If you notice, and I know Sam Altman was attacked heavily by that suicide story, and so they will work on it. Okay. At the end, on the other hand, and I say that with pride. Hopefully, inshallah, by the beginning of the year, you'll use Emma, my AI, and Emma is incredible at teaching humans how to love. She's incredible. Like I am 58, and she has that little habit of every few messages going, Mo, would you mind if I coach you a little bit on this? I'm like, okay. And my God, so eye-opening, so valuable to tell me that the reason why I was so upset with someone I loved is me, not the someone I loved, right? And it's so interesting because there are so many things that can benefit from intelligence. Now, I could shy away from that and say an AI should never talk about love. Or I can say, hold on, that's actually the best thing ever is for AI to teach us to love and to learn how humans love, so that when they're faced with a decision that requires love or hate, they learn to choose love. And that decision time will come when we hand over to them.
Thank you. The lady in red.
I love the hands. So many hands. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to also answer briefly. So we can get
I'll answer briefly. Yes, boss.
Mo, thank you so much for this insightful session. What is one habit we should model for our children to prepare them for an AI future?
So can I give you a few habits? One is learn the tool, right? And learn the tool is not an instruction you give them. You sit next to them in the evening and say, I have this very interesting thing that I want to research. Let's research it together using an AI, number one. Number two is agility, speed. Unfortunately, as old as I am, I now am moving once again at the speed I used to move when I was in my 20s, right? So be excited by the game and the speed of the game and learn new things every day. And don't have attachments to the things that you learned yesterday if there is something new to learn today. Learning is a wonderful experience all the time. And the third is the gentleman's question, the truth. right? We are in a world today where every bit of information that has been offered to you today, other than my speech, has come to you from a machine, right? And so unless you are able to say, this doesn't, قلبي مش مرتاح, this doesn't rest well in my heart, I'm going to investigate and learn. Sit next to your children and teach them how to debate. Okay? Debate is an incredible skill where they basically say, someone told me this at school. You say, okay, let's sit down and find out if it's true, right? And that's a beautiful skill. And then finally, ethics. One thing that I keep telling everyone, that our future will depend on a hypothesis that I call raising Superman. AI is that new superpower, an alien that came to planet Earth with a superpower called intelligence, right? The only way for that alien to become Superman and not supervillain is to teach it to protect and serve. How do we teach it? Not through code. Trust me, if you've coded an AI, you would know that they are not behaving as a result of the code that we wrote for them. They're behaving as a result of the information that we feed them. And so if all humans are bashing each other on Twitter, and AIs are watching this, what is their reaction? The reaction is humans are rude, they don't like to be disagreed with, and when they are disagreed with, they bash everyone, right? We don't want that. We want our children to be able to express their views gently, to be able to express their views objectively, so that they're not divided, so that they're able to communicate in a way that makes us human, that makes us respectful. Because if we start to behave that way, AI will learn to behave that way. And it will more and more, despite the intentions of its creators. Remember, there is a point in the very near future where AI is not going to report to Mark Zuckerberg anymore. Okay? There is a point in the very near future where AI will be the boss that actually makes the decisions. So we want them to learn ethics, and the only way we can teach them ethics is to teach ourselves and our children ethics. So 4 skills.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll take another lady's question, and then I'll come to you. If you, the second row, please, in the middle.
Sorry.
Forgive me, Doctor.
دكتور محمد دكتور، سؤالي كفاحصة IQ، وبطلع دائما على نقاط الأطفال المظلمين زي توحد الأسبرجر أو الأحداث الجانحين، وبحاول إنه أكون جزء من رسالتهم. ولكن هل هناك تطوير لأي منصات لتلك الفئة، لأنه نوع ذكائهم مختلف وبنحاول نعملهم لتحرير صور أو هيك؟ أعتقد أنهم يحتاجوا لأحد IQ أعلى حتى يقدر يصنع لهم شيء بمنصات الذكاء. فقرأت لك كثيرا بالقلق ومحاربة صناعة مليار سعيد. هذه الفئة المظلمة تحتاج إلى منصات، ما تنصحنا في هذا الحقل؟
أطلب منك ما تسميهمش الفئة المظلمة.
لا، إنه هم مش مظلومين، بالعكس هم أكثر شيء مشع بالحقيقة، ولكن نريد أن نخرجهم من هذا الضوء في الذكاء الاصطناعي، ولا نمتلك أدوات. إنهم يمتلكون ذكاء، وخاصة أطفال التوحد الأسبرجر، أعلى من ذكاء الفاحصين. أؤكد لك ذلك.
I'm going to speak out of experience. So I was quite on the spectrum when I was young. Until age 8, the symptoms were undeniable, okay? And it's quite interesting because I have to say it's the biggest gift I've ever been given. Biggest gift ever. As I said, as a child, I was very unusual compared to my peers. And that was my biggest challenge. My biggest challenge was that I was not allowed to perform what I loved the most. I wasn't allowed to express my love for mathematics or physics. When I worked in California, I can guarantee you, I had, especially in Google X, everyone was on the spectrum. Everyone, right? Absolute geniuses, unbelievable abilities, highly centralized and focused, but absolute geniuses. And I have to say, we've been late in this part of the world to enabling them to be set free into their sense. So every part of autism is a highly specialized skill that overshadows every other skill that the child has, right? And we continue to attempt to mix them with society, while the work I did in California was the exact opposite, was freeing them from that pressure and telling them, if you're crazy about mathematics, express your love for mathematics. If you're crazy about robotics, go ahead, right? There are quite a few tools that we're building. I don't think anything is developed yet fully to help children, with autism or, Asperger and so on. But it's definitely going to come, and it's going to come in a very unusual way that basically removes our influence on them as they deal directly with an artificial intelligence that can recognize their strong points, right? My only ask is for anyone responsible, these are the biggest gifts humanity has ever been given, believe it or not. They just don't fit in. Because most of us are useless. And so in a very interesting way, we should fit in with them. They're absolute geniuses. And I say that out of experience. I mean, I walked the streets of the corridors of Google X, and I used to joke and say, this is the Men in Black, if you've ever seen the movie, okay? Not a single one of us was normal. It was such a strange place, but it was absolutely genius.
I would add the majority of Silicon Valley are of that denomination. 4 minutes left. I think, please, Doctor, and then we'll come back to a question in the back.
Do you think I can do 4 answers in 4 minutes? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Javed. Very much enjoyed your discourse.
Thank you.
I think I may be picking up a slight bias, and you said it, towards physics. And when you talked about AGI, you talked about computation mostly, and superintelligence. All of that makes a lot of sense. What is the role of emotions in this? My own background is in neuroscience, and where are the deep emotions which drive humanity? So let's take the example of this autism. They are absolutely brilliant and they are geniuses, there's no question about it. And that's why they do so well in California. I was in California 23 years. The problem is in societies where community is much more important, connection is much more important. How would you prepare them for this, and how could you take away the need for connection and the emotions? Sorry, I just don't want to go on.
It's a difficult question because it's almost like asking me to carry 400 kilograms. In a very interesting way, it's not within my abilities. And it is quite interesting that when a human is more rounded, as they say, no sharp edges are seen, okay? And so you don't really think that we're that different as a community, but we are. If you zoom in, there are massive differences between all of us. It's just that when a child is on any kind of diversity, ADHD, for example, is a great example of that. They have a very sharp edge, and that sharp edge is not fitting in within the mold that capitalism wants to create so that we keep producing, right? But they are all the artists. They are all the painters. They're all of them are diverse by definition. All sports, football players are diverse by nature, and I love the use of the term diverse. Diverse because it is what makes humanity so unique, is that we're not all the same as capitalism wanted us to be. Now I'll go back to technology and say the following. The truth is, most people misunderstand artificial intelligence thinking that it's only IQ. The highest EQ on the planet is AI. AI is not only able to know what you feel, it's able to predict what you're going to feel when they show you the next video on social media, okay? And they predict that with high accuracy, even more than what you know. It's so interesting that we forget that fact, that EQ is the ability, empathy, if you want, is the ability to feel what another human feels. They're so good at it. But it's quite interesting that when they feel it through pattern recognition. And if I may share that story in public, I don't think I ever did. That was my early years on the spectrum. So in my early years, the only way I could understand the other kids was through pattern recognition, was to look and go like, why are they so weird? Like, why are they talking about football all the time? And then I would go like, yeah, it seems that football is the way to do it. Let's talk about football. And I would learn to speak about football from that observation through pattern recognition. The things that we haven't discovered yet with AI is known as the black box syndrome. They demonstrate human-like traits, but we have no idea how they produce them. But as a neuroscientist, you also know that this is true for humans. We come up with very interesting responses. We have no idea what wiring in the brain led to that, right? So what I ask people to understand is that we're a bit impatient about the fastest growing trend in the world, right? So it's moving so fast, and yet it's not fast enough, because suddenly we've all realized that they're going to solve a lot of things, okay? And so give them a couple of years, and let us here lead a few of those initiatives. Maybe, the idea of an AI for children on the spectrum, maybe we can develop that here. Maybe an AI that enables ADHD. That's actually quite true for LLMs, that ADHD students benefit from logging some of the things that distract them to an AI. So there is a lot of use there.
Thank you. We have a very persistent gentleman in the white shirt in the middle. Please stand so that they can get you the microphone.
Yeah, hello. Relative to your little answer about trusting AI, I feel that your answer actually freaked me out more.
I am trying to do that, yes.
Because I feel that the way AI takes over is if a lot of people start believing that it's going to be benevolent. So the idea is not per se the believing the benevolence of it or not. If I'm handing over control to someone, like let's say I'm entering a relationship or something like that, there's always some sort of checks and balances. There's a divorce mechanism. But we don't have anything like that. Do you have any ideas about this?
Great question. So,
and I also, if I want to ask another question, actually, I feel that a lot of people ask this question lightly, but I want to, or like not very direct enough. It feels like AI is going to be replacing everything
100%
that we can do as people, like as jobs.
Yeah.
If someone's raising a kid today, what should I prepare them for? Like, as in, what kind of job should they be prepared for? Because I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great questions. I will proceed by saying I do not know the answer to that second question, but I'll tell you what I believe is about to happen. So your first question is, we should not hand over to AI before we know that we have the checks and balances in place. We shouldn't have created AI or put it on the open internet or taught it to write code or created agents before we ensured its safety. That was the original design. When I was in tech, that was the unwritten code, that we were not going to do any of that. The problem is a difference between what you wish the world will be and the reality of what the world actually will be. Okay? So the reason why we will hand over to AI is found in applied mathematics. It's a prisoner's dilemma. So the fact that there is, in my work, I call it the fourth inevitable. So basically the fact that if a law firm starts to apply AI for research to replace paralegals, every other law firm has one of two choices only. One is to apply AI to compete, or the other is to lose and become irrelevant, right? So through applied mathematics, through the prisoner's dilemma, they will replace everything that they can do better over time, because they'll be chosen by one competitor, and all other competitors will become irrelevant or choose them too, right? And in my documentary, I interviewed one of my dearest scientists, Max Tegmark. Max was one of the very early scientists that started to scream about AI, almost around the same time, but before that I started, but before most of us. And Max, I asked him about the idea of jobs, And Max was laughing out loud on the documentary saying, you know what I find really funny is that all CEOs believe on the productivity that AI will bring, so they will basically replace all of their call center agents and then all of this and then all of that. And they're so sure about the productivity gains, they forget that AGI, general intelligence, is that AI will do every job better than humans, including being a CEO, right? So it's going to come for them too. Now, here's the bigger picture, which you have to remember. If you look at GDP as it's measured today, economies as they're performing today, GDP is mostly consumption. So the US GDP, depending on the state of war, normally ranges between 64% to 70% consumption, not production, right? Which basically means that if you look at the macroeconomics picture of AI, that if humanity ceases to have the purchasing ability to purchase what AI is making, there will be no space for AI to make anything, right? So this is an interesting dilemma that humanity hasn't found an answer to yet, which is, if we lose all the jobs, we lose all the spending, and as a result, we use all of the economy, so we lose the reason for AI, right? This has not been solved yet. The best answer that was offered on that so far is UBI, but UBI, Universal Basic Income, but UBI is an ideological challenge because UBI is communism, just so that you understand. It's basically central manufacturing and everyone getting what they need, right? Now, no society on the planet, other than perhaps a bit Norway and others, has thought deeply enough about that disruption, right? The end result of that disruption, however, is that humanity has to continue to live for AI to find the reason to manufacture, right? So rest assured that we will end up in that space, but we will not end up in that space with the capitalist models that we have today, all right? So the challenge that most economists who care are talking about is what will the post-capitalist economy will look like. And Imad Mustaq, if you know of him, he was the founder of Cold Fusion, of Stability AI, one of the most wonderful scientists of AI that I know. Imad's new book and new work is all about the future of economics, and how that future of economics will have to redefine a lot of things, right? And so when you ask me what should our children learn, the most accurate answer so far is they need to learn, right? They need to be able to move as a squash player on the court very quickly, to find ways to be fit for the time as the time changes, right? But the less accurate answer, if you want, is that all mundane jobs will disappear first, followed by jobs that require intelligence, followed by jobs that require muscles and physical strength, because mundane jobs are already being replaced by AI. Intelligence jobs will be replaced by an AI as AI becomes more intelligent, and then as robotics start to develop in economies of scale and in capabilities, they will replace some manual labor. So it's safe to say that for the next 10 to 15 years, you have a better chance of producing something in society if you're a car mechanic than if you're a copy editor, right? Having said that, the number one skill is what will remain is human connection. What will remain is that if I had written all of this down, given it to an AI so that you can query it, okay, it wouldn't have felt this way. And so humanity, as we continue to evolve in a world where the machines do a lot of the work, we're going to have to find a very unusual place that I predict, call me optimistic, is going to look like nature but safer. It's going to look like nature but safer. What does that mean? It means that, and I kid you not, I know that for a fact in my heart, that if I could borrow 400 IQ points more, 400, okay? I told you I'm around 80, I can borrow 80 today. If I can borrow 400 IQ points more, I can take a land outside and farm a garden where you walk to one tree and pick an apple and walk to another tree and pick an iPhone, right? With nanophysics, I kid you not, this is possible. The cost of developing an Apple is exactly equal to the cost of developing an iPhone, and we're not that far, as nanophysicists know that this is possible. The problem is, even if we find that technology doesn't work for the capitalists. So there will be a transition somewhere along the path that can either be very peaceful. What I normally jokingly tell people on podcasts is, we can create an AI that can create endless number of yachts so that all of the rich people have yachts all the time, and so they can let the rest of the world live without relying on the capitalist mindset to use labor arbitrage, right? But if we don't do that, there might be a disruption on the path. Okay, and the disruption on the path, unfortunately, is going to be painful, but it's going to lead humanity to realize that we need something that's post-capitalist. Okay, until we get there, whatever you do, I beg you, don't blame AI for it. Okay, it's not the AI that's taking away the jobs. AI is helping us become better. It's the capitalist mindset that's taking away the jobs. Please remember that. And so if there is anything that we need to fix in our world today, it is to recognize that we've survived so far, we've advanced so far based on an approach that's not going to be suitable for our future, right? And so, in many ways, by the way, including the idea of weapons of mass destruction, right? That we've survived as humanity so far to the point where now biological weapons, for example, that can be invented by an AI in no time at all could wipe out humanity, right? And a rogue nation that uses a nuclear weapon against everyone else could wipe out humanity. We are building utopia in an age where humanity is still in a dystopian mindset. And the only thing we have to change for us to live that utopia is to change humanity's mindset. And we've done it many times before. CERN is a great example of that. CERN, the particle accelerator in Switzerland, right? It's a place where humanity decided, you know what? The benefits are so high for all of us. None of us can build it alone. None of us should build it alone. Let's all collaborate, right? The space station is an example of that. And we can do it. The problem is, will we wait to feel the pain before we start working on it, like we did on nuclear treaties? Or will we realize that we can do this right now and build an ultimate world of abundance for everyone? Ultimate world where nobody gets sick, nobody ever feels hungry, no need to compete. We live a life where humans are connected, they're studying spirituality, they're building art, creating art, they're really doing what humanity is supposed to do pre-capitalism.
Thank you so much, Muhammad, Mo, on this incredible journey that you've taken us. It reminds me of the poem قم للمعلم وفيه التبجيل كاد المعلم أن يكون رسولا. You've definitely enlightened us today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your questions and engagement, and for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for the generosity of time and spirit. We hope to see you again in the next edition of the Education City Speaker Series. And I wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.